introduce you to the aliens from my book. Let's consider the collective and individuative experiences of a passing transformative present, historically indebted memory structures from the past, the creative impulse to project future visions, and then ask, where has our consciousness of time come from, conditioned and totally standardized? Many of us have likely experienced uncanny instances of fluctuating senses of the present and variable passing time. The motions of the heavens have been most obvious to man, both past and present, as a sign of passing time. Our ambition and intellectual inheritance have both given us perpetuated shaping and measurement of time. Parabolic subdivision of intervals over linear history seems the only difference between the ancient and contemporary man's conception of time. Cycles in the celestial sphere patterned sky can now be understood as a key to understanding the implications of Einstein's mathematically proven theory of relativity and the limitations of and distances measured by the speed of light. Looking back into time, with space telescopes, we are able to observe in an accelerated photo-exposing reverse of real time the transformations of nebulae, Earth stars, the formation of protoplanetary accretion disks, and the fundamental understanding of the infinitely unique potentials within an observably unfolding vast 12 billion year old expanding universe. We can see the light energy in illuminated atomic particles as matter and radiation extending from our place in the Milky Way to the edge of the known universe. We're finding those particles to be visible, while others exist beyond the visible species as infrared emissions, radio waves, or X-rays. Much of this universe is otherwise empty, composed of light travelling vast distances to and from potential observers that might exist intergalactically. Limited by the speed of light's boundaries on time and space, galaxies thus have the potential to exist as universes into themselves, separated from each other by the paradoxes implied by Einstein's relativity, and in some cases also by dark matter. Although unexplainable within the laws of our three spatial dimensions that contain matter responsive to electromagnetic light, including our physical eyes and thus empirical worldview, this so-called dark matter was proven to exist in August of 2006. We are skidding into the final years of the 26,000 year precession of equinox's cycle. The circle ever slightly shifts our terrestrial angle relative to deep space, serially aligning our view of the rising sun with our earthbound view of the black hole at the centre of the spiraling galactic disk, nearly 30,000 light years across, but at one point on this long, subtle and marginal era causing great cycle. Perhaps some answers to pressing contemporary ecological, social and eco-political challenges lie within the comprehensions of the long phase motions of the universe, such as the precessions of the equinoxes and the archetypes throughout history that have referenced connections between deep geologic time, cosmologies and human insight. The civilized built environment, including our gadgetry, libraries, archives and exponential capacity for innovations, has resulted in over progressing millennia since mankind ascended from passing days as wanderers settling into urban centres marks the conscious effort to create structures that reflect progress over a cumulative time as a triumphant reflection of intellect and power. Generations inherent strive to preserve interconnected systems and societies. This complexity of contemporary systems is awe-inspiring, but we are reaching a breaking point, critically overextended to near the point of collapse due to unsustainable mental mechanical logic. Our progressed architectures, technologies and epistemologies rely on the day-to-day carryover of reality, paradigms and senses of security and memory for cognitive learning and understanding of lifespan. Having surpassed survival mode, our sensory reactions evolve to reach the nuances additional to the motions of predators and rivals. Gaining an intellectual awareness of the heavens rotating around itself sparked an interest in creating within it, also in service and appreciation of it, via ideas and the engineered mathematics of monuments and mounds such as Stonehenge ca 2500 BC and Newgrange ca 3000 BC. Human intellectualism within our most recent conception of history has continuously aspired towards comprehending the heavens, mastering various craftsmanships of load-bearing architectural designs and developing technical systems and devices for acceleration. Man has moved quickly through masteries of properties in the physical materials and chemical elements, first for projection and then in the conquest, exploitation, stockpiling. The wandering celestial bodies that we determined to be co-solar planets revolutionized dimensional perspectives upon proving one of the Copernican worldview, while the Renaissance also introduced a new paradigm of finance concepts. The philosophical brain has always sought to control, find order and establish security by enhanced resources and tools. We have gradually progressed from creating metallic alloys to achieving optical devices, to developing light-sensitive photo recordings, and to unraveling atomic particles. One might even deduce that digital systems and high-energy quantum physics find root in humans tending to fix and measure time, both for monetary value and global exploration. By establishing the prime meridian for measuring global time, socialized humanity entered this highly calculated intellectual phase. However, it is now through the weaknesses of these constructions over progressed linear time that we are coming to understand ourselves as self-referring awareness of the universe itself. The Michelson-Morley experiment, 1881, had discovered that light could be fired in many directions, but the speed stayed constant at every angle. Einstein's equation proofing arrived at a profound insight in the relationships between man, knowledge, and nature. Physics was not the study of events and observations, but rather as relativity and an understanding of the world and time as relations. Ultimately, all understandings of the physical universe find root in the paradox that Einstein discovered in the theory of general relativity. As an impossible question, he asked, what would the world look like if I rode on a beam of light? If a train or body-moving vessel of any kind were moving away from, for example, a clock at the speed of light, the passage of time would appear to stop. The clock would appear fixed because the light is focusing an image, and the clock would be meeting our eyes at the rate we are moving away from it. Receiving the visual information is constant now. Time itself would seem to come to an end for the person on the train. If moving at the speed of light, it would be almost as if the light-based observer within a light-based material dimension were being pulled apart simultaneously from the light-based material reality of the space and time being traversed, warping the limits of time-space duality, the yet impossible feat of moving faster than approximately 186,281.387 mi/SEC is interesting to consider when thinking about deep space imaging and or high energy physics observations. If a train with me in it were moving away from a clock at the speed of light, and the train car and I would be fixed in time to me. If I were moving on a beam of light, time for me would now come to an end. As I approach the speed of light, I am alone in the box of time and space, a bubble that is increasingly departing from the norms around me. Such a hypothetical scenario leads to additional possible conclusions. There is no universal time. Experience must therefore run very differently for the high-speed traveller, the stay-at-home observer, and thus possibly also for each of us on individuated paths in space-time, outside of any distorting psychological perceptions. However, experiences in the bubble are consistent. The high-speed traveller observes the same laws, the same relations between time, distance, speed, mass and force that any other travelling or stay-at-home observer discovers, but the actual values that the traveller measures for time, distance, are not the same as the observer left on the land beside the train track, experiences and or observers. What if we are all moving at a metaphorical frequency, speed of light, meeting in the bubbles of individuated consciousness, time-space experiences overlapping and running into one another, share an idea of common reality that seems anonymous and separate, but personal and unique, because it is both, and also physically entangled, collective, social and quantum interaction. When we exchange signals, we always discover that information passes between us always at the same rate. We always get the same value for the speed of light, even in the near instantaneous transmissions of fiber optic data. Like the relativity of time, so might the magnetic poles be considered relative, shifting throughout deep geologic time as evidence for lava cores drilled deep from within the records of rock layers found in slowly cumulative islands such as Hawaii. Having undergone innumerable migrations and cycles of destruction, having survived repeating iterations of civilizations in quest for truth, now we perpetually interface with fractal dimensions of information processing, internal/external and neurological/technological. We think in superfluous interconnecting layers as optical information systems and digital tools exponentially extend the very cognitive capacities that initially led to cumulative advancements, self-perpetuating evolutionary technocracy. Because our minds have evolved of a symbiotic relationship with the natural world, how can we biologically and psychologically meet the challenges of the future? The crisis may require a breakdown of former perspectives, but permacultural local economies can be created and networked efficiently when considering systems, models, and deep space-inspired concepts of time. Our universe undergoes great cycles of creative destruction. Space telescopes redefine our perceptions on time and scale, twisting relativities, appearing beyond the speed of light and terrestrial concepts of place. Our contemporary movement is poised to reconsider existing worldviews, creating humanist discourse on philosophical questions aspires to facilitate the evolution of perspectives on time via comparative exploration, quantum, holistic, and sustainable part-to-whole synergistic paradigms. We are being called to collaboratively attempt to avert a global ecological, financial, and social collapse. Light years might therefore be seen as a microcosmic example of a lapse phenomena between consciousness, the motion of light, conditioned memory formation, and or transformative actions on material bodies over time. The passing moment remains without content. When moving from there to here, you are also from within there to here, as in Einstein's bubble. Consciousness is constant in the biomachinery of all living things, but it is difficult because the electricity jumps between the synapses of accumulated structures in the physiological processing center itself, whereas brain synapse structures accumulate and habitually develop structures over time, reflecting the projected, engineered, built environment. The living systems of ecosystems have become fragmented, pressurized, distorted, and unsustainable in time when controlled by calculative, extortionist methods of thinking. Most of the stars we observe could have theoretically already exploded, become nuclei, or disappeared into pulsing neutron stars or black holes. If everything in the universe is made of matter and or living energy, then everything in the universe has the potential to decay into dust and to undergo transformative loss of living memory. Dualized linear time underscores human experience, and if we are cyclically living and dying to uphold closed architectural metaphors, particle physicists have a similar predicament as artists. They know that extra dimensions are required by string theory equations exist and want to see prove them. But if we and our physical bodies exist in a reality that keeps us separate from any reality other than three spatial dimensions plus time as perceived during developmental biology lifespan, the stars that we observe from Earth proximity other than the Sun are at closest 4 light years away. The light from only one such star, Alpha Centauri, reaches us within 4 years. Most stars and galaxies are over hundreds, thousands, millions and billions of light years away. Experience of the universe thus exists outside of daily human lifespan and societal concepts of time. Our observational experience of the present is largely disconnected from celestial time scales. All the light we see was initially emitted inconceivably long ago. Should Alpha Centauri, for even Sirius 9 light years away, suddenly explode, we would not see it for over 4 years in the future. Black holes are hyperdense objects from which even light cannot escape. They exist within the centre of galaxies, including ours. Like pulsars, neutron stars, they are mysterious singularities where space and time break down, mathematically modelled as trans-dimensional portals. The aboriginal rainbow serpent and the Mayan serpent rope might be interpretations from within ancient paradigms of a cyclical cosmic electrical anomaly similar to the effects of an electrical charge fired through plasma. Whereas aboriginal land is geologically quite old compared to other continents, the aboriginal dreamtime and songline concepts might be reinterpreted insights into the long phase phenomena governing our cosmological senses of space, time, and involvement in reality. Earth changes may or may not precede galactic alignments, such as implied by the 2012 precession of the equinoxes. However, geological balances within the Earth itself are interconnected within the gravitational relationships of the cosmological bodies on a macroscopic scale of the known and unknown expanding universe. Gravity is considered a weak force by physicists, and which could potentially be the link between brain world theories postulated by M theory and string theory. CERN's Large Hadron Collider is capable of accelerating particles to near the speed of light. Perhaps the S particles sought by the high-energy physicists will prove to be totally other than we can intellectually expect. The motions of stars, nebulae, and planets observed in outer space have consistently informed our placement of ourselves within a series of fixed reference points to create, systemize, and profit from the world that we inherit through intellectual advancement, social constructions, historical progressions, and psychological conditionings. The density of neutrons contained in the pulsar rotating at the center of the Crab Nebula is considered impossible even by contemporary understandings of physics. Gravity's inconsistencies could similarly be a key to unlocking unforeseen visions on time and space. As individuated people growing up in a hyper-complex materialist society where political, emotionally institutionalized, and media proliferated, our technocratic worldview defines perception and is ultimately indebted to accumulation and cyclical revolutions. As a species, we always seem to be seeking to enhance our lives through outward power and inward spiritual searching for betterment. This manifests over time, through lives tied in time. In The Unknown Spirit, Jean Charon mentions
Desjardins' insight that some of the particles in physics are micro-universes consisting of a particular space-time also reclosing itself, and having reached the extreme in their analysis, physicists clearly do not know if the structure they research is in the essence of the matter they are studying or the reflection of their own thinking. Like relativity, the sublime may be described from that beyond absolute knowledge. Philosopher Robert Frodeman explains that our traditional sense of temporality, as ill-defined, unself-conscious as it may be, determines the type of manner things that strike us as real. I then have to ask, are we travelling through time, or are we trapped by time? Do paradigms power perception, or does perception power paradigms? Can thought recognise that which does not exist within it? Can we be aware that we are aware, and what, without closing down on an idea, might that mean to a future paradigm shift?
Apparently they think in superfluous, the connected layers superfluous. They might be an inferior species. They've got lots of big words.